All right, let's just get right into it. Let's get right into the fucking news. All right, there's a lot to talk about today, specifically with Joe Biden. Guys, we have to talk about something really important. America's 44th president was black. But is America's next president potentially also black? I'm, of course, referencing Joe Biden and the interview he had earlier, I guess, yesterday or something. I don't know when the fuck this interview took place, but with Charlemagne the God, where Joe Biden discussed who is black and who is not black.
The Breakfast Club.
Vice President Biden, how are you?
Also, Charlemagne the God is a gigantic piece of shit, and I fucking hate him, unrelated to all of this, even though this is great content.
Today.
Good to see you.
Same here. You know, I've been critical of you. I have a few things I want to talk to you about today.
I know you have.
Yeah.
You don't know me.
No, I don't. That's why I want to get to know you today.
Charlemagne the God at bootlicking.
Black stuff. But, you know, first of all, how are you? How's your family during this quarantine?
Thank God everybody's doing well. How about you and your family?
Man, we over here blessed, black, and highly favored, man.
Well, I tell you what, the black community is getting killed, though.
That is very, very true. That is very true. You know, it's a lot of right-wing media outlets. They question you.
That's a weird way to hop into an interview. Okay, let's go.
Your cognitive health. They don't think everything's working upstairs. What do you say to that?
I say I can hardly wait to meet with that guy who is the stable genius.
There's nothing stable about that guy. You know, one thing I've been critical about is I feel like you've been like MIA during this global pandemic. You know, it's people like Governor Cuomo here in New York who have become political stars simply because we see and hear from them every day. So I'm just like, I'm wondering how you're going to energize people and win a campaign from the House.
Well, I tell you what, I'm following the rules, man.
True.
Number one, I'm keeping the rules. My governor says he doesn't want us out. I haven't been out. I wear my mask. I have a mask. I got Secret Service outside. I walk outside. I have it on. They get tested. And by the way, I'm beating them across the board.
Mm-hmm.
Over 160 million people have watched me so far on shows like yours.
Okay.
All the stuff about it hurting me. It's not hurting me. I'm winning in all those states. I'm ahead in all the national polls. And the more he talks, the better off I am.
Yeah, we know polls can be illusions, though. Like, you know, we looked at all the polls in 2016, too, and look what happened.
Totally different, man. 2016 is totally.
I'm going to go ahead and assume, and this is like one thing, and Biden is a good retail politician, and he knows what to say to black community leaders. He knows what to say to black people when he's like out and about in like southern states and shit. He is much better at that than Hillary Clinton is. That's for sure. But one thing that you can spot with white people being uncomfortable is like, one, the highest level is code switching, okay? The highest level of like uncomfortable white person around a black person is code switching. Where, you know, I'm talking that John Jack with the homies. It doesn't happen too frequently anymore. I feel like people know it better now, which is pretty good. It kind of sucks because like it used to be really funny to watch people do that. So that's one, okay? The next level, though, and this is like a much, much less offensive level, is when people do, when people just exclusively talk about black issues. It's like, dude, the person in front of you is a black person, but he's still a person. Like, you can talk about other stuff. Like, it doesn't exclusively need to center around blackness, okay? Yeah, you know, those blacks, they're dying, Jack, is like a very weird way to start the conversation. I'm assuming he's going to do that a lot, though.
You had somebody who didn't know it all. They wanted to just change the system the way it was. He was the biggest change, no serious opposition that turned out to materialize. And so it's totally different. Right now,
Keith made me the notorious shitter in my chat.
You know, that Carney show goes through town once and you find out there's no pee under any one of those three shells that get pushed around. Mm-hmm. Next time it comes back, what do? Next time it comes back, you ain't playing. You got to figure it out. Okay. And let me tell you something. My community figured it out a while ago. But here's the deal. What I have to do is I have to continue to talk about the things that matter. And the things that matter are, for example, right now there's a study out of Columbia University and the Disease Control Center up there. They pointed out that if he had listened to me and others and acted just 1 week earlier to deal with this virus, there'd be 36,000 fewer people dead. dead. And you guys are wondering what's he doing? Get a life. Get a life. This guy has been incredibly terrible. And what we've had is, back in January, I wrote an article back, I think, the 27th of January, said this pandemic's here. We should act. Every other country that was acted around the time, got the notice around the time we did, they have considerably fewer deaths as a percent of the population. I'm the guy that said we ought to take hard records and find out exactly how many people in the Black community are getting COVID and are dying from it. And look what's happened. Now everybody's going, oh, surprise, surprise. Look, everybody knows this. We have to come back. We have to fight back. And, the crisis is laying bare the institutional racism that's still prevalent in our society. And I believe we have to address it by transforming our economy, and this time bringing everybody along. And we haven't, look, he started to undermine the pillars of his economy before. The blinders, Charlemagne, in my view, have been taken off. Okay. Now people recognize that those essential workers, a disproportionate amount of them are African Americans, and they're breaking their necks, risking their lives, losing their lives. They're grocery store workers, they're bus drivers, they're delivery people, they're the people who are on the line. They're the healthcare workers who are in a position where they're taking care of the nurses. I mean, and they're making basically the minimum wage. So this time when we come back, we had not only move this along, we not only rebuild, but we have to transform this economy. We can create millions of new jobs in transportation, energy structure. There's jobs. A job is a lot more than a paycheck. It's about your dignity. It's about respect. It's about how you're treated. And that's how we built from the working class to the middle class. But this time we have to address the institutional racism. We've seen it more clearly now. In a Black majority county, they're 6 times more likely to die in the pandemic than a white county. They're disproportionately uninsured in the African-American community, disproportionately make up the essential jobs that they can't do at home. They're risking their lives every day. Enough's enough. And this Biden recovery I'm going to put together will bring everybody along. I'm going to build a better future, not back to what we had, but back to something better than we had.
I'm glad to hear you say that. I don't know if you saw a couple weeks ago, Sean Combs, you might know him as Diddy.
Yeah.
He said what I believe a lot of Black voters, including myself, feel, and that's that Democrats take Black voters for granted.
By the way, P. Diddy might be, super rich and whatever, but his take there was entirely correct. And Black people, poor people, like people from different backgrounds the Democratic Party is supposed to protect are absolutely getting exploited to a degree by our duopoly, our two-party system. And their votes are being taken for granted. And they should 1,000% demand more from their representation. Kanye had the same take, but it's still fuck yay. Yeah, well, Kanye's take is a little different. His solution was to Kanye West's solution, and Candace Owens' solution is to go out and not vote, or go out and vote for the Republican Party, which is infinitely fucking worse than the Democratic Party, because at least the Democratic Party has the decency to fucking pander to Black people, whereas the Republican Party literally does the opposite. The Republican Party engages in racial agitation so that they can galvanize the white working class against Black people. So you're a fucking real dummy if you go and vote for the Republican Party, except for Kanye West. He's not a real dummy. He's a fucking billionaire. So for him, his color is no longer black. It's green. The color that he's voting for is no longer the color of his skin. It's just the color green, the color of money. Okay? He is not voting out of his consciousness and to improve Black people's lives. He's voting because he wants to make more money. He wants to sell Yeezy shoes to white people as well.
Granted, votes a quid pro quo.
Kanye
right?
is obviously Black still, but he's not voting out of his interest for Black people. He's voting out of his personal interest for his money. Okay? He's voting for his fucking bag.
It's not like I don't want to vote. I just want to know what candidates will do for us in exchange for our votes. The same way young progressive Latinos, the LGBT community,
absolutely,
we want the same thing. Do you feel like Black people are owed that from the Democratic Party?
Absolutely, Paul. What did I say? Remember when they said Biden can't win the primaries?
Yes.
I kicked everybody's ass. Excuse me.
No, talk like that. I need you to say that. You did what?
No, I won overwhelmingly. I told you when I got to South Carolina, I won every single county. I won a larger share of the Black vote than anybody has, including Barack. I increased the vote in Virginia overwhelmingly by 70%. Look, what people don't know about me is I come from a state that's the 8th largest Black population in America.
If you don't subscribe with Twitch Prime to HasanAbi, you're not a true progressive.
I get 96% of that vote for the last 40 years. They're the folks, as they say it my way, brung me to the dance. That's how I get elected every single time. And everybody's shocked. I get overwhelming support from the Black leadership, young and old. Every poll shows me.
I loved it. Like, he was like, do you think like you should take the Black vote for granted? And instead of saying, no, I shouldn't take the Black vote for granted, he just talked about how the Black vote is the reason for why he won, which is true. But like, the best argument in this circumstance would have probably been to say, no, of course I don't take the Black vote for granted. The reason why Black people voted for me is because, you know, I care about the African American community, and then immediately engage in a widespread whitewashing, gaslighting operation to make it seem like all of the past actions that Biden has taken against the Black community that have directly harmed the Black community were actually good for them.
Way ahead. And it's not just, I hear this, oh yeah, old Blacks are with Biden, but youngs aren't. Look at the polling data. Polling data, let's say it's off by half. Come on, man. Give me a little break here. This is where I come from. I got involved. I came home from college, and I had a job with a really fancy law firm out of law school. And my city is the only city in America occupied by the National Guard, the military, for 10 months when Dr. King was shot. And I had this fancy job, a kid coming from a lower middle income household.
If Charlemagne had any sort of decency or self-respect, which he doesn't, he is totally a clown. Just for the record, remember, he literally was I think the only prominent Black influencer that immediately endorsed Pete Buttigieg, and then dropped this endorsement of Pete Buttigieg and went and fucking endorsed Michael Bloomberg. Like, just remember that when you're watching this interview, okay? Total fucking clown. But in this circumstance, if he had any decency or self-respect or care for what he does as his job, he would turn around and be like, what about all the fucking times that you have lied about getting arrested for the civil rights protest that you never actually got arrested for, and then you had to apologize for? What about the time where you, even in this cycle, even in this election cycle, where you said you got arrested while trying to meet Nelson Mandela during the apartheid, which also did not happen, turns out? Why do you keep lying about why do you keep lying about your past?
I quit and became a public defender, and I stayed in that community. I was the only guy when I was in high school. I had a job, a country club kind of job at a swimming pool. I was the only white employee in the East Side because I wanted to work in the projects, because I wanted to understand. That's how I got involved in politics. That's what this is all about for me. It's about equality. It's about dignity. It's about treating people with respect. And so, you know, when you take a look at my record, people talk about the crime bill. Crime bill didn't increase mass incarceration. Other things increased mass incarceration.
Wait, what? Oh, fuck? No, he did not say that, dude. What? This is Trump level. This is literally fucking Trump level of a take. This is just when you assume that the people who are watching are just fucking dumb enough not to realize this. There's so much evidence to disprove exactly what he said. Also, if you're fucking Black, you probably already know this reality.
Reason why, if you go back and look, and I know you talk about it, you go back and take a look. That's why you had the vast majority of the Black caucus at the time supporting the crime bill. Almost every major city black mayor supported the crime bill because blacks were getting killed overwhelmingly as well. And what happened when that crime bill?
I love it. He's like, what about black on black violence, Jack? What about the blacks killing other blacks? That's why we did the crime bill. He's right, though. The crime bill was controversial. Community leaders at the time, African-American community leaders at the time did also. There were people who were against it, as always. And there were African-American community leaders that were for it. Okay? That is the truth. Like, because crime does impact older black voters, more conservative black voters that happen to also have ownership over some capital, and disproportionately. And they are, of course, going to have a problem with it. And they are, of course, going to want to take a more draconian stance against crime in their community.
It had 4 or 5 really important things. It had the Violence Against Women Act. It said drug courts don't send anybody who has a drug problem to jail, send them to rehabilitation, to a drug court. It had in it, they had the assault weapons ban, getting rid of assault weapons, getting rid of the number of rounds you could have in a gun. It also had in it a whole range of other things, but had things I didn't like. Clinton wanted to put in a deal where, in fact, 3 strikes and you're out. I opposed that 3 strikes and you're out bill. I oppose the position taken. That
Wait, what? Wait, is that real? That completely goes against his rhetoric surrounding the advocacy for his legislation, which was that we need to incarcerate these people. There is no way to rehabilitate these people. It's a small percentage of blacks that are responsible for like all the crime, and there's no way to actually rehabilitate them, which is why we have to get them off the streets. And everyone who opposes me is a pussy was pretty much the take that he fucking had on that very famous Senate speech that he delivered.
That saying that you're going to have any mandatory sentences. But on balance, the whole bill, what happened was it did, in fact, bring down violent crime in black communities as well. And guess what?
He reportedly called the 3 strikes provision that escalated prison sentences up to life for some repeat offenses wacko and illustrative of Congress's tough on crime attitude. But he was tough on crime. So that's what I don't understand. And I genuinely did not know this. I did not know that he was against the 3 strikes provision, which is very shocking.
The fact is, prison population didn't increase. 94% of every prisoner in jail is in a state prison, not a federal prison. No federal law. And here's the deal. The one thing I opposed in that bill was people wanting to give money to state prisons to build more prisons. I opposed it. But the point was, on balance, everything from the assault women's ban to the violence against women ban to the drug courts, they were important. And now look what we can do. Look, I've been pushing along with my colleagues in a black caucus in the United States Congress. We should change the entire, and I've been doing this for a while, change the entire prison system from one that is punishment to rehabilitation. There's only a couple things everybody has in common in jail.
Okay, when he wrote the crime bill and advocated for it, and it was so over-encompassing that even Ronald motherfucking Reagan refused to sign it into law and vetoed it, so they had to pass it in different packages. Just remember that little fact while we're getting to it. But when he was advocating for it, he literally had the exact opposite stance. And years later, when they asked about this, he never apologized for it until recently, where he apologized for certain parts of it and still has a draconian attitude towards drug offenders. Does that mean that his administration is going to take an aggressive stance against marijuana? I don't think so, because Biden is a fucking puppet, okay? He's a sock puppet with a hand shoved up his ass that is like basically controlling his fucking mouth. It's going to be liberal interests, and liberal interests dictate that we decriminalize marijuana at the federal level. So that is one area where Joe Biden will be definitely better, or the Joe Biden administration rather will definitely be better than the Trump administration. I do believe this. Okay, I'm being fucking honest with you. Joe Biden himself has absolutely been pathetic on crime and absolutely has been awful on fucking drugs. He is one of the reasons why we have such a crazy amount of prosecution on drug offenses, and he has routinely and consistently continued to advocate for draconian rules around drugs.
One is they were the victims of abuse, or their kids were, or their mother was. Number two, can't read. Number three, they don't have any job skills. They were in a position where they didn't get a chance. Why does it make sense? Why did I come along and write the first act that said when you get out of prison, you don't just get a notion where you get $25 in a bus ticket. You end up under the bridge. You end up under the bridge and just do the same place. So every single solitary person being released from prison should have access to every single government program. Why does it not make sense to have African Americans who are getting out of prison who serve their time, everybody for that matter,
excuse me,
be able to have public housing?
I'm out of control.
Why doesn't it make sense that they can have Pell Grants to go to school? Why doesn't it make sense they can have access to health care? What are we, nuts? That's what we keep doing.
Yeah, so sorry, that's our time there.
No, I'm sorry. I know Jill has to use this, but I'm talking too much. I apologize.
No, I gotta ask you though. You know, why so much?
What the fuck was that? Well, I'm glad that he kept going because we're coming to the best part of this fucking interview, the most psychotic part of the interview.
Much resistance on admitting the crime bill and other legislation you are a part of was damaging to the black community. Because we had Hillary on a few years ago, and Miss Clinton said that the crime bill, we made a lot of mistakes with that, and she wanted to atone for that by becoming the next president. Like,
she was wrong. What happened was it wasn't the crime bill. It was the drug legislation. It was the institution of mandatory minimums, which I oppose. Mandatory, I oppose the ban.
I thought you was a part of that in '84 as well. The Comprehensive Crime Control Act that established mandatory minimum sentences for drug offenses.
Oh, that's why I didn't fucking think so. Oh my God. Okay, never mind. What the fuck? Yo. Okay, maybe he changed his mind later down the line. But that's true. The original mandatory minimums was implemented for drug crimes in 1984. And who did he author that fucking bill with? Motherfucking Strom Thurmond, dude. Motherfucking white supremacist Strom fucking Thurmond. Just putting that out there. Holy fuck.
What happened was, what you're confusing is what happened was the Black Caucus came to me and said, look, I did this study when I was chairman of the Judiciary Committee. We looked at every district of the 10 court districts in America, federal court districts. And we found out that if you got arrested for robbery and convicted, and I got arrested for robbery and convicted, it was the first time, you went to jail an average of 13 years. I went to jail an average of 3 years. So there was this whole move, same time for the same crime. So no one based on their color could go to jail longer than anybody else for the same crime. So what happened was there was a...
Listen, Jack, that's called real equality, Jack. Blacks and whites going to jail for the same crime, Jack, for the same time. You do the crime and get the same time. That was actually non-racist.
Judicial Selection Committee said...
I like that they didn't go, everyone gets 3 years now, but instead they went, everyone gets 13 years now, which is, I mean, not even 13, but like, it's so fucking dumb. God, America is so fucking stupid, dude. Angela Davis wrote about exactly this when she talked about feminism and in the prison system, okay? And how, like, there was a feminist prison warden, a female feminist prison warden who wanted to increase the brutality in female jails, okay, to make it equal, rather than actually addressing the problem of why we have such awful, like why we treat criminals in such an awful fashion.
Truly
she
appreciate
wanted
your
to do
content.
what was
Keep up the
feminist.
great work.
That's
RIP
neoliberal, and
mustache.
that's at the heart of. It's such an instructive speech, and it's such an instructive text, and I highly recommend you guys read this. But it's one of my favorite because it is at the heart of neoliberal feminism, like more female girl boss slay queens as prison wardens, rather than why do we have prisons to begin with? How can we change this system? Why do we have crime to begin with? Rather than addressing the root cause of the problems, we try to equalize the brutality.
Up that how you deal with making sure that the sentencing process is taken out of the hands of prosecutors saying, I'm going to want 12 years, 13 years for you, and 3 years for me. The end result of that was the unintended consequence, which we changed, Barack and I did, was the fact that you, in fact, all of a sudden, you could not lower my sentence or your sentence be lower than what was the average sentence for everybody else going to jail in the district.
Democracy is the
That's
worst
how that
form
came
of government,
about.
except
It
for
didn't
all the
say
others
mandatory.
is true.
We said to the
Also,
judges,
sorry about my
you
last
can't
donor
send
wasn't
people
trying
to
to bum
jail
you
for the
out.
same crime different times. They have to be within a framework. That's why that has been changed. And while I was vice president, I helped Barack. We reduced the prison population federally by 38,000 people. 38,000 people. And the only mandatory was in there was carjacking, which I opposed, and 3 strikes and you're out, which is ridiculous. It only was imposed 3 times. But still, even once makes no sense.
There is a very real spiraling effect that Biden spearheaded with his active and deliberate championing of more draconian measures on criminals from the left, from the liberal side of the political spectrum, that led to mandatory minimum sentencing and a 3 strikes law. Denying that is denying reality. Okay? Biden was the champion of, we are going to outflank Republicans from the left. We are going to out-conservative the conservatives and show the world that we aren't pussies, and we're going to do what needs to be done, and we're going to take these draconian measures, and they're going to have some consequences, but sucks to suck. Don't be a fucking criminal.
The idea of 3 strikes and you're out. Give me a break. And the other thing we have to do, one of the things that, I was a public defender. I'm going to insist when I'm president that a federal public defender gets paid the same amount of money as a federal prosecutor gets paid. So you have representation. People have representation. But the bottom line is, the other piece is, I'm going to try to change, and I've laid it out. I'll send you a copy of my plan so you have it to see
Lift every
it.
voice?
Pardon me?
What, deliver every voice or what?
No, the plan I have is my manifesto for Black America. And particularly the portion of it that relates to how, in fact, we're going to deal with the prison system. If you are in prison, if you are convicted of a crime, no one should be going to jail for a drug crime, period. Nobody. No matter what the crime, particularly marijuana, which makes no sense for people to go to jail. They should be just wiped out completely. And the reason is that, if anything, for those crimes that are actually continue to be crimes, scheduled crimes, which marijuana shouldn't be anymore, what is happening is you shouldn't go to prison. You should go to a mandatory rehabilitation.
It is kind of wild that, like, Republicans don't take advantage of this. Like, why are drug offenses, especially ones that revolve around marijuana, still an issue in 2020 when, like, so many of these states have either legalized or decriminalized it, and they have success stories all around, both in terms of taxpayer dollars. Like, I just don't know. I don't know why you would not just, it's the easiest fucking thing that you can go for.
It costs less to put people in a drug rehabilitation program than it does in jail. And you have a chance. We got to give people a chance.
Vice President Biden, I've read some of your Black agenda, and you say that you would decriminalize marijuana. What's the difference between legalizing it and decriminalizing it?
because they're trying to find out whether or not there is any impact on the use of marijuana, not in leading you to other drugs, but what it affects. Does it affect long-term development of the brain? And we should wait till the studies are done. I think science matters.
I think we got decades and decades of studies from actual weed smokers, though.
Yeah, I do. I know a lot of weed smokers.
I want to ask you about your running mate.
Why does he still do this? Like, this is such a weird thing. You know his fucking handlers are like, dude, please don't try to say that like weed is bad. Please, like, just
don't
fucking
love the spirit
dude,
of
come on,
justice.
you're a Democrat.
You
Like,
love
don't
your
say
father,
this.
the devil.
They're probably like ripping their hairs off because they're like, oh, we gotta fucking defend this again.
Learned so much.
I don't know if you saw. Well, I saw the day that a news report broke that Amy Klobuchar was being vetted, and a lot of people on social media, they're not too happy about that. And it's because they want your running mate to be a black woman. I don't know if you saw the op-ed in the Washington Post by some of the leading black women voices in this country. And they feel since black women are such a loyal voting bloc and black people saved your political life in the primaries this year, they have things they want from you. And one of them is a black woman running mate. What do you say to them?
What I say to them is that I'm not acknowledging anybody who is being considered, but I guarantee you there are multiple black women being considered. Multiple.
I got binders full of black women, Jack.
You know,
Thanks so much. That's really our time. I apologize.
You can't do that to black media.
I can't do that to white media and black media because my wife has to go on at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
Oh, I'm in trouble.
Listen, you got to come see us when you come to New York, VP Biden.
I will.
It's a long way until November. We got more questions.
Wait, did I skip the part where he says, if you don't vote for me, you're not black? Or, oh my God, it's at the end? Oh my God. Oh no.
I'm out of control. I apologize for that.
You
Oh,
got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
It don't have nothing to do with Trump. It has to do with the fact I want something for my community. I would love to see.
Take a look at my record, man. I extended the voting rights 25 years. I have a record that is second to none. The NAACP has endorsed me every time I've run. Come on. Take a look at the record.
All right. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Anyway, thanks. I will come back.
All right.
I look forward to seeing you in person.
Okay, absolutely.
Okay, pal. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it, Charlamagne.
there was like
You love your father, the
there was
devil.
like 3 instances where he could have been saved from that moment. Okay, so that's like a fucking really dumb gaffe, very much expected from Joe Biden. Do Democrats absolutely fucking take black votes for granted? Yes, that was supposed to be the premise of this fucking interview, and he unironically ended the interview by literally saying that. Okay, like black people vote overwhelmingly for the Democrats. It's not even a question. Like they do. It's the single-handedly the most important voting bloc for the Democratic Party. Okay, what is it like 90?
You don't love
it's like
the
90+%.
You love your father.
You can say
the
no,
devil.
they don't. All you want.
Champ.
You are just completely fucking wrong. Okay, black women specifically vote 90+% for the Democratic Party. If you say no to that, you are just completely out of your fucking mind, okay? You're just sad, pathetic loser who wants to fucking act like, that's not the reality. But do I think that these sorts of takes make it so that, like, black people don't want to vote for the Democratic Party? Probably. I mean, I assume. I would get annoyed if I was consistently being pandered to with no real change. And consistently being told like the other side is much, 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 much worse. So, you got to vote for me, Jack.